Howdy, tubers and footers. Welcome to another edition of First Draft. This is our second one where I am writing stories about our subscribers. And the first one was about our awesome Uncle Bones. And today's story is about our birthday boy, Danny Staton. You know, everybody loves Danny Staton. When he comes on, he always has that fun greeting. Greetings from South Carolina. So, which we all love. He has been a fun part of the community. He's one of my first, Bigfoot investigators on YouTube that I watched, and I instantly subscribed. He was just so funny, and I just loved the way he didn't hold back. And so we've been subscribed to one another's channel ever since. And so I definitely wanted to do this first draft in honor of Danny Staton. So here you go. Here you go, buddy. It's for you. Now he sent me this book, this cryptozoology A to Z, because I am pretty much like, I've always known about crypto stuff like Loch Ness, Bigfoot, things like that, but I never really, I guess, spent a whole lot of time in the topics. You know, when they'd come up in my range, I would watch it, you know, or read it. But other than that, you know, I didn't really have much interest, and so I've been learning a lot more. And so he sent me this to help educate me on all the different cryptos out there. So I had to use this. And those of you that know Danny Staton, he's into wrestling, and I am not. And so I had to do a lot of research into the topic, which was fun. And that took me a little bit longer to write this story than I probably could have written it in. But hopefully you guys will enjoy it. And especially hopefully Danny will enjoy it. And I'm trying to decide if I want to do titles for these stories or not, or if I just want to title them who the subscriber is. And so I'm still trying to figure that out. So I have a couple potential different titles I was thinking of, but I'm really nervous. I really am nervous. These are first drafts. They are not edited in any way. I've written them down in my notebook, and that's how I write all of my stories, pen to paper. And I always love my Crystal Bics. Those are my go-to pens for writing. Danny is also into comic books. And so I was going to do this in comic book style and then try and make like a little video comic book style, but that just got too complicated for me. And so I decided against that. But I try and put a lot of thought into these things. So again, I'm nervous. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. So here we go. Danny Staton. The crowd was amped up and thundering loud in the Coliseum, which held around 700,000 beings in the balcony seating and another 300,000 seats in the arena floor. This event was sold out and standing room only. Tickets were $1,000 each, with well over 1 million excited wrestling fans. The building practically levitated from all the noise. Danny! Danny! The majority of the spectators chanted, trying to summon him from his pre-wrestling mandatory checkup. The stomping feet, clapping hands, all in trance-like unison, with the deafening chanting booming through the evening air, far beyond the Colosseum, miles away to the outstretches of town. Dan could feel the rumbling of the wrestling fans deep in the hidden rooms he was sitting in, while his heart, blood pressure, and oxygen levels were being monitored. The doctor, well aware of what Dan was preparing to face, was listening, the best one could, for any indication of concern. Quite satisfied, she patted Dan's shoulder. "You are more than good to go." Sighing with disapproval, "There are other sports you could do." Resigning to the obvious, Dr. Lindorm offered words of encouragement. "And since you are the reigning champ, you must remind them why, since there's always another wanting your title." "Tonight is the Sisamite from Guatemala." Dan huff laughs at the coincidence. "I think every wild man's brother, cousin, father, and even mothers want to tear my head off." "Don't be silly. That isn't something you should think of. It's something you should know," she joked with him in her own sarcastic, monotone, deadpan delivery type of way. "You did call Kalili a porn star," looking right at him with that judgmental mom look. "Well," he tried to defend himself, "she is technically naked on the video that is being shared around the world, and her image is everywhere." He was quite matter-of-fact in his defense. "Plus, she even has a porn star name, Patty," he concluded, quite proud of himself. "If it was any other woman, shame!" He wagged a disapproving finger. "Shame!" He then hurled his arms dramatically. "Off with her head!" "Here we go again," the gruff elderly voice came through the hallway. "That is what got us into this mess." He shuffled into the room. "I'm too old for this." "Come on, coach. You know I keep you young and give you something to live for," Dan joked. "How do you call a holy relic young?" the assistant coach ribbed as he followed into the room. "You did coach Adam, if I recall, before Eve came along." Dan laughed with him as they play-fought swings at one another. "Eddie, did you get a chance to see him?" Dan had to ask. The curiosity nagged at him. "The Sisamite? Yeah, I took a peek for you. He was warming up." Eddie just left Dan hanging. "And?" Dan, a bit impatient, prodded. "Does he look ready?" "He was just hurling tractor tires around while on a bucking bull machine cranked up all the way. You should have seen it. Quite impressive, really. The way he was able to grab those tires and discus throw them around while being jerked about, man, I tell you, it was something else." The obvious exaggeration was a bit much. Dan looked around at his team, a bit concerned. "Are you sure this asshole is on our team?" pointing to Eddie. They enjoyed a good laugh together. "He has photos of your girlfriend all over his room. She is the next target, he claims." The gruffy coach snuffed out the laughter. "You know what happens when a Sisamite has a female target?" Always serious, Coach Haas brought everyone back to the task at hand. "That is no laughing matter." Coach continued on his reminder of what Dan was up against. "If you look into his eyes, even if you win, you will die within a month." He positioned himself directly in Dan's face. "You can't look at him." "I know all this, Coach. We've been training blindfolded for that reason." Don't worry, I trust your methods. Do you trust me? He placed his hand reassuringly on the coach's shoulder. We are ready. Besides, I think everyone has pictures of my girlfriend. She's beautiful. With that, Dan kissed his coach on his forehead. Disgusted and worried, Coach Haas wiped his forehead, mumbling curses under his breath as he shuffled over to the door. Ready, champ? Eddie asked as one last moment to reconsider. The crowd was electrified. Belize was proud of the warrior they brought forth to face Dan. The cheers seemed to exchange between the two wrestlers. The crowd loved to pump up both sides of these events with equal fervor the closer the time came to the ring announcer's spectacle. Once Dan was in the gorilla position, the event was cued to begin. Welcome to the main event we've all been waiting for. The ring announcer was getting people in their seats and pumped up for the matchup. Don't let him get a hold of your arms. Stay just outside his reach. Do your thing out there. Coach Haas giving final instructions before releasing his prize wrestler into the ring. Locked in a bubble with his coaches, Dan fully concentrating on the final tidbits of advice when the announcement snapped them all into silence. El Sisamito! The uproar that followed shook the foundation of the Colosseum. As the Sisamites' entrance song played, the strobe lights flashing, the crowd was going nuts. It piqued his curiosity. Ever so slightly, Dan peered through the curtains to see his opponent make its way to the ring. Don't look in his eyes, Coach Haas reminded him. Too many didn't believe it, and where are they today? The Sisamite strutted around the ring, soaking up all the energy and attention. Now, the warrior you all are really here to see. The Demon Stomper, Danny Staton. The crowd erupted in an ecstatic burst, unable to control themselves. His entrance music was barely audible over the screaming fans. Making his way to the ring, women throwing their bras and panties, hoping to just grace his body. The barriers barely holding back the passionate fans, flexing as he strode past. He didn't need a gimmick. He was able to hypnotize the crowd with his continued successes against the alphabet of cryptids placed before him. Dan would usually stare his victims down prior to go time, but this was not an option with this Sisamite. Instead, he focused on the grotesque body of his opponent, closely monitoring his movement. The announcer explaining the agreed-upon rules of engagement to the anxious crowd as the ref moved into position. The ref quickly reminding the wrestlers of the expectation in his ring. He held the entire event in his calls. The wrestlers in their starting position, awaiting the ref. The triple ring of the bell sent the crowd into a frenzy. This was not a WWE event, so the moves were not scripted and worked out beforehand. The Sisamite grunting and mouth breathing seized Dan up and tried reaching out to grab him. The careful maneuvering kept Dan out of its destructive grip and avoiding eye contact. Dan had a usual plan to wear it out and go in with a forceful body slam, and he understood that plan wouldn't work with the Sisamite. They had an energy pool that seemed to be endless. The short and stout body of the Sisamite made them practically impossible to lift and slam. Without further hesitation, Dan delivered a knife-edge chop, so forceful its connection to the deep barrel chest of the Sisamite had an amplifying effect that reverberated, causing the audience to wince in a reflective sympathy. The collective "ooh" unanimous from the crowd fed more incentive to Dan. He truly enjoyed the relationship he developed with his fans and soaked up the crowd's attention and the responsive applause, cheering, and outpouring of praise from the announcers kept him fully charged for the entirety of an event. Always engaging, the crowds hyping them up into wild frenzies as he initiated end moves with electrified energy arcing through the air like fireworks bursting open. Dan was always exciting from bell to bell in the ring. This proved to be no different, landing a shot that expelled most of the air from the Sisamite. Taking advantage of his compromised position, Dan climbed up the ropes. Once positioned, he drew his arms up, pumping, causing the audience to get even further worked up. Launch! A flying headbutt so dangerous, yet with precise execution. Dan flattened the Sisamite. Eating the canvas, it went down with a pounding. The rumble from the ring's support structure absorbing the impact resounded through the Colosseum. The crowd, fully immersed, arose to their feet, roaring alive. With a surprising quickness, the Sisamite was on its feet, headed towards Dan, who was busy playing to the crowd. Misunderstanding the crowd's gestures, Dan continued to play to the audience. The surprise of being lifted into the air was evident upon his reaction. The crowd gasped in anticipation as the Sisamite began spinning with a dizzying force. Dan, high upon its shoulders, flung about so fast he lost all bearings. Unsure of what was up, down, left, right, or inside out, he was powerless, fighting passing out. With tremendous force, the Sisamite ejected Dan from his shoulders, launching him across the ring with the ease of throwing off a towel. While the Colosseum spinning about in all directions as he was spread eagle, flying through the air, hurled into the ring corner with a painful thud. The crowd collectively wincing and curling inward protectively as if shielding themselves from impact, let out a reflective "oh" as Dan crumpled into the corner. "Get up," Coach Haas ordered Dan, knowing the Sisamite would waste no time in finishing Dan. The Sisamite wasn't playing to the audience. He wanted Dan dead. Just as the Sisamite grabbed a hold of Dan with a breathy grunt, hoisting him into the air effortlessly, Dan smiled at Coach Haas, reassuring him he was up to something. Unsure the abuse was worth whatever Dan was scheming, Coach Haas watched closely, gesturing to Eddie to position on the opposite side of the ring. The Sisamite began violently pumping Dan above its head, forcing his body into painful jerking motions. Unsure of how much his body could endure, Coach Haas watched with unease. Just when Dan felt he was nearing permanent damage of multitudes, octopus-like, Dan awaited the downward pull, and with lightning speed he wrapped himself around the Sisamite, covering its face entirely, somewhat smothering, working himself into position. The Sisamite began clawing at Dan, desperate for air and eyesight. Spinning about, flailing, twisting, jerking around, the Sisamite was unable to hold its breath for very long, especially when it's exerting a bunch of energy with a limited air capacity. Now cluing in to Dan's expertise and ability to use one's weakness against him, Coach Haas, for a moment, became proudly impressed by his wrestler he trained from a youngster. All those hours reading comic books and devouring anything paranormal and cryptid every moment he had away from training and events. All seemed to be of benefit with every combat he faced. The pride-filled moment was yanked away, just like Dan. The Sisamite managed to snatch Dan off of his face and pile drive him with all his strength into the canvas. Feeling as if every bone and body mass went through his brain before the pain could even register, Dan was effortlessly hoisted back up into the air. Completely disoriented and unable to devise a new plan, held up, the Sisamite began spinning once again. Knowing his brain wouldn't endure the forceful motion, Dan allowed instinctful muscle memory to take over, and without the resistance of thinking moves through, his body responded like an angry feline. With shape-shifting like speed, Dan regained control. Grabbing and grappling around the Sisamite once again, he was smothering it, exhausting its limited oxygen, while positioning himself for a move his own brain was trying to reject. Maintaining his thought-removed instinctual moves, he took a deep, hopeful inhalation, a forceful jerk motion, pulling onto the Sisamite's fur into position. The desperately clawing opponent turned about in reactive motions. Gathering all of his energy and power, Dan heaved himself backwards while maintaining a tight grip around the Sisamite. The forceful jerk was just enough to take advantage of the unbalanced flailing about to land the Sisamite onto its back. Using the reactive force upon crashing onto the canvas, Dan leapt into the air, trying to gain as much height afforded to him. Before hyper-focusing all that energy onto driving it into the Sisamite's body. Extending his mighty elbow, Dan drove it into the chest as the impact of his weight pile drove it deep. The gut-wrenching sound of ribs snapping apart is never pleasant. This was no different. Satisfying, maybe, but not pleasant. The disturbing amount of bile-filled vomit that erupted from the Sisamite's mouth not only drenched Dan, but it splattered across the entire ring like a tidal wave pouring over the sides. It continued hurling its entire contents of its intestines outward in horrendous surges. The crowd, in a disgusted panic, yet morbidly curious, backed away from the bile-drenched area. The burning sting as the acidic rainbow spit began boiling his skin was forcing Dan to make a final death move. Quickly, Dan wiped his face as he worked his way to the ropes. The Sisamite, groaning, began rolling over, trying to grab at Dan. With quick bursts, Dan was over each rung. Positioned perfectly, he leapt with determined force. Tucking as best he could, Dan made rotation after rotation. Gaining momentum with each turn, he landed upon the Sisamite with directed force, driving his tailbone through the Sisamite. Just as the revolting stench violated the senses, the crowd now began covering their faces, desperate to escape towards open air. The stampede of panic-driven, nauseated, overstimulated crowds began pouring out of the Colosseum. Just as the final count of 10 was announced, with the accompanied bell ringing, being lost in the confused panic of hordes of people trying to escape the vomit competition unfolding around them. The gurgled, strained breathing of the Sisamite was slightly relieved as Dan removed himself off of its now broken body. Having avoided eye contact the entire event, Dan fought the urge as he waved to his team for water to wash him off. The entire sprinkler system for fires sprayed down upon the bile-filled disaster as each team tended to their wrestler. There was no glorious ending since the crowd was dispersed, but the coach and Eddie cheered Dan on as they worked their way to the awaiting Dr. Lindorm. The Swedish doctor had a way of treating even the most deathly of conditions. There was a witchy type of way about Dr. Lindorm. She moved about with a serpentine-like seductive smoothness. Her eyes seemed to flicker as her pupils would flash to an unhuman slit. Ever so often Dan would catch a glimpse from the corner of his view, a slight trail of smoke escaping her mouth. When he would take closer inspection, there would be nothing. He always felt as if she had hypnotic eyes, big as saucers, if he allowed himself to gaze too long. She was an avid swimmer, and whenever she wasn't tending to the team, she would be in her massive pool. Hers traveled throughout the entirety of her custom home. Dan stayed there after every event to ensure he was healing properly. He enjoyed watching her swim about, rarely having to exit her pool. Dan tried to follow suit, but would prune up, forcing him out. Somehow, Dr. Lindorm's skin maintained perfect balance. Once Dan was comfortably relocated to Dr. Lindorm's rehab home for athletes, they all settled in for a celebratory dinner. Raising a toast, each spoke praises and fun jeers towards Dan, and they all enjoyed the great food in one another's company. Once things were winding down, the trio of men sat on the edge of the pool, legs dangling into the warm water, discussing the next potential match. "He hasn't even enjoyed the win from this evening, and you are already trying to determine which cryptid is next?" Her Swedish accent became more pronounced as she consumed alcohol. Dr. Lindorm walked over from behind them and took a leap into the pool. Her glamorous dress was flowing angelic-like in the water around her, her graceful strokes pulling her around the room. The men were completely affixed upon Dr. Lindorm as she elegantly floated about. They remained in a trance-like state, riveted by her otherworldly beauty. Her dress would flow effortlessly about her slender yet strong body. The droplets of water would glisten like diamonds upon her skin as she came out of an underwater dive. Exhaling bursts of water droplets would spray out, shimmering in the light. As the men remained transfixed, quick flashes of her as some kind of dragon-like being would appear to each of them. One by one, they would see the vision, and with a blink, disappear. Confused and a bit concerned, they may have had a slug too many of the whiskey, each of the men setting their drinks down, somewhat disoriented. Dan started up a conversation once again, straining to change the focus off of Dr. Lindorm. He explained, "I think these cryptids are after me." Considering the group hallucination they were unknowingly experiencing, the other men were interested in what Dan had to say, although they desperately tried to keep their cool, not wanting to appear drunk and hallucinating. "There are some nights out in my backyard that would make your hair stand on end." He became hesitant to continue, feeling a bit uneasy to share his concerns. Sensing he was about to shut down, Eddie inquired, "Do you need any backup?" "No, I don't think so. It's just the noises that come from back there don't sound natural. I sometimes hear growling so close it's chilling." "What do you think it could be?" Coach Haas inquired, carefully maintaining a watchful eye on Dr. Lindorm. "There's plenty of critters out your way. Are you sure it's not some wild animal?" Even knowing what they knew about cryptids, they still tried to reach for logical explanations. There is something out there that wants me to know they are there. He seemed concerned. They get more aggressive, random, and numerous as time goes on. He looked into the water as if it was going to reveal solutions. They were all so engrossed in Dan they hadn't noticed where Dr. Lindorm had swam off to. Even Coach Haas had lost track of her. The entire house had water pathways, even a gradual ascension to other floors, with a fun and rather exciting water slide that weaved in and out of the elaborate custom home, with multiple areas to get on or off of, making it a rather efficient way to get around the house. Dr. Lindorm was an Olympic-level swimmer while making her way through school. She remained in the master class at the local YMCA and enjoyed many of the classes and events held there, even teaching and coaching the swim teams. The fact she had an elaborate swimming house didn't seem so bizarre once you knew Dr. Lindorm's circumstances. Dan swirled his feet about, noticing they were beginning to wrinkle up. "We should probably get out here soon," he suggested. They all took note of their feet and how pruned up they had become, laughing at their wrinkled up toes and bottoms of their feet, comparing whose was worse, began a bit of a splash war with one another. Laughing and getting lost in the enjoyment of careless abandonment, they truly let go, clutching at aching sides, cramping up from pure, uninhibited belly laughter, faces aching from genuine smiling and unfiltered joy, a rarity for Coach Haas. As they took a collective break to catch their breath and try to relieve their aching sides, something long and snake-like swam past. Retrieving their legs from the water in quick unison, verified they had all witnessed whatever it was that swam past. Frantically searching the water for whatever they thought they saw, they each issued out a concerned summoning of Dr. Lindorm. Once again, the serpent-like creature returned towards the men. Retreating away from the water's edge, the trio watched, perplexed at what they were looking at. What seemed like a 20-foot-long snake, now coiled and rising out of the water before them, became quite obvious once the wings jutted outward in a glorious display. "A dragon," Eddie managed to announce, while the other two remained silent, carefully watching for any sudden or uncomfortable movements indicative of a threat. The blackened body, shining with a glowing bright yellow flamed belly, arose before them, the teeth shining white in its rounded yet seemingly square head. Its eyes were large and round like saucers. It was emitting a slow and rather quiet hissing sound. Unsure if it was preparing to attack, they remained on defense. Coach Haas beckoned for Dr. Lindorm again, concerned for her whereabouts. "Yes, Coach," the dragon responded, coiled upon its tail, wriggling before them. Confused and bewildered by the dragon that presented itself, the men arose to their feet, bracing for battle. Eddie tried to position himself behind Dan. The reality suddenly struck Dan. "Dr. Lindorm?" he questioned, then explained to the others, having finally figured it out. "Lindorm is a Swedish dragon." Its divided tongue issued forth another hissing response. "Splendid!" Then it sunk back into the water, and with a coiled lunge, it darted off. Looking every direction, unsure of what was about to unfold, the trio backed up to one another. As if nothing had taken place, Dr. Lindorm appeared in the room from the hallway behind them. Rattled and rightfully wary of her, the men shuffled away from the immediate area, creating some distance between them. If I wanted to harm you, you'd be consumed by now, she announced calmly as she made her evening tea. Would any of you care for some? They stood there, mouths agape, trying to sort it all out, looking to one another for answers. They lowered their defenses. Resolving to the fact it was about to be a long evening, already well into the early morning, they accepted the offering of tea and prepared for quite the explanation. There you go. Awesome. Thank you guys for showing up. Jazz Wolf, how's it going? I was wanting not to interrupt the story, by saying hi. Yeah, but that's why I was doing little waves. Juanita, howdy. B.O.B. Jake, how's it going, bud? Good to see you. Good to see you. Danny Staton, our guest of honor. How you doing? Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Dan. I hope you liked your birthday present. Little wrestling story. I didn't know anything about wrestling, so I had to go do a bunch of research for some of these moves and how it all plays out. Pyro, how's it going? This comment just about broke me during oh my god, that made me laugh. At that point I was like, oh, I can't look at the comments, and then this comment came up. I was about done for at that point. It was like, do not look, don't think about it. Blue Line Bigfoot, good to see you. Thanks for coming. Yeah, you got me. You got me, Dan. You got me. I know you always try and get me every live stream, and you usually do. That was pretty funny. Yeah. I hope you're having an awesome birthday, Dan. You are such a fun member of the community, and we've been on this journey, from the get-go. So thanks for being there. But I really enjoy our little back and forths we have. It's awesome. And I know you showed up in the middle, but in the beginning I was showing the book you sent me, because this is where I got a lot of the information from there, because I wanted to try and find a cryptid that we normally don't hear about. And and then when it came point to the doctor, it was like, oh, I have to make the doctor a cryptid. That just seemed I don't know. Sometimes while I'm writing, I just let the story tell itself. It kind of unfolds as I write. So, oh yeah. Well, you've got a whole herd of grandkids, right? That's awesome, but dude, you killed me. Pyro. Oh, my eyes are still watering. That was so funny. Oh, that was so funny. I almost debated even saying, reading the comment, but then that would have just disrupted the flow. So I'm trying to get this into some kind of thing. I don't know. I may try and maybe edit some intros and stuff like that. I don't know. This has just been fun. And since I love writing, this has really been a project of love, So I really hope you guys enjoyed this stuff. It's It's really, I get really nervous. I don't believe you, Patrick. uh, when you write something first draft, like this. Oh, I was also telling Dan, like, I know how much you love comics, so I was originally going to do this like comic book style, but then I realized I was far outclassed, and that was way beyond my skill set. I mean, I was going to make a little video, and do it like comic book style like you do, but yeah, I couldn't pull it together. I'll get there maybe someday. uh, how's it going, Patrick Bond? Good to see you. That's awesome. I sent you a text. I don't know if you got it. I don't know how many 907 numbers you hear from, but I found your little note in here and was like, oh yeah, I've got his number. So I sent you a little birthday wish. Hopefully that's still your number. Sounds like you have a cold. I have something going on. I don't know what is going on. I don't have allergies, I don't think, but maybe that, I don't know. I can't. Yeah, I've got like this weird sniffly thing going on. My husband pointed out something about my voice that I'm going to try and work on, because there's a lot of things that I would love to change about my voice, but it's called voice fry, I guess, that happens. Some people do it unconscious, which I do apparently. So I'm going to try and become more aware of this and try and get it together. Get it together, woman. Get it together. Yes, Alaska is dealing with another snowmageddon. They got dumped on in a very short amount of time. Like my godson, um, uh, such a gem of a dude. Um, he went out to the cabin and went and helped unbury everything and get my dad all lined up. His grandpa, crusty grandpa, he's still out there. He's gonna stay out there till the little baby's born. I'm gonna hopefully go up there too. So we'll see. Yes, Danny, I am the anonymous text you just got, or you got right before this. Wishing you a happy birthday. I always say birthday with the F. Oh, look, it changed it in the title to birthday. I'll have to change it back. Keep the white stuff up there, please. Come on, Patrick. What? You're not a big fan of it? Good times. I was saying something to someone. I think it was Grasshopper. Was in the chat saying, there's no way I'm going up to the Arctic. You can keep it. I'm like, what? The ice is fine. Come here. Yeah. So Captain Jake will be doing a merchant marine escapade out into the Pacific Ocean in December. He's going to be hauling a barge from Seattle to Hawaii and back. So he's going to be gone for the month of December and part of January. So during that time, Joseph and I may dart up to Alaska and go hang out and see family and see little baby. So excited. So yeah, that's what we got going on. But yeah, I really hope you guys enjoy these first drafts. It's a lot of fun. So if there's someone, if you guys are interested in having anything written about you, go ahead and let me know. And if you don't want something written, please let me know. Please, because I may just unsuspectingly pick one of you. And if that's not something you want, please let me know, because I would be mortified if you know what I mean. So I don't want any of that nonsense going on. So let's see here. Let me see. Alaskan Iron Dogger, world champion. I would guess Jackie knows her way around the snow better than most. I would hope so. I would certainly hope so. I mean, I've lost a lot of skills over the years, especially being bedridden, but there's just some things that just come natural, right? After so long. Yeah. Oh, and that's another thing. I'm going to be doing another Iron Dog update here soon. It was so embarrassing. I was doing an Iron Dog update, and my browser wouldn't let me show my screen. So, it was such an epic fail. It wasn't even funny. Oh, it was funny, but so I'll have to go back and do that all over again. So that'll be coming real soon. Also, this week, um, man, I have been in severe repair mode since our last outing to that giant stone door in Oregon on Quartzville Road. That, oh my goodness. When we got out there, like as the day started, it was like, okay, I know it's going to be crappy weather, but whatever. I'm not afraid of shitty weather, right? So I get out there, and we get out there, and it just starts getting like that super misty, like just drench you rain. Like no matter what you do, you're just gonna be soaked. That kind of rain. Just, oh my gosh, it started pouring on. Hey, Tiki Miki. Doing good, thank you. So when we got there, the guys we looked at the video and thought, well, we could probably scale that. But no, that is really some brutal terrain to try and navigate, especially on a rainy day. So we tucked tail and decided, well, we'll just come back, and we're gonna try and hike up around it, like the other gentleman. So let me go back. I'm sorry, I'm just all over the place on this. Let's reel us back for some of you guys that don't know what I'm talking about. There was a gentleman who happened to be driving down Quartzville Road in Oregon, and he witnessed what he claimed was a giant that was scaling the side of the mountain, and that a door had opened and the giant had gone in and was looking at him through the crack of the door. And so he made a quick video telling this story. And he explained that if anybody wanted to know where it was, he would share the location, and that he was going to go back there and try and hike up around the back, because you can't scale the front of it. Even my son, with all of his mountain climbing gear, was like, I don't know about that. So, excuse me. So we decided that we could possibly go up around it. And that was the same thing this gentleman had decided. So him and his wife had returned back to the area. And on their way, hey, Nana Boss, hi, Marty. On their way back to the area, they claimed they had been followed by unmarked white vehicles, and that they had lost their tail as soon as they got up to where they were. Hey, Robert Moore, how's it going? And when they started hiking up to the spot where this giant door is, and I'm telling you, I'm telling you. Sorry. I cannot resist that. I'm so ridiculous. Anyhow, that place is like, it looks like it could be a door. It looks like it could be like some kind of building, like structure. I mean, it looks intriguing by all accounts, truly. And my husband and my son are extremely skeptical. But if we can get up there and they can pry that thing open, it'll be done. So, um, anyhow, so they, on their way up the hillside, the couple experienced what a lot of people experience in the Bigfoot community, where a tree came down and a large boulder was tossed down in their direction, causing them to retreat. And he made a quick video of them retreating, and and he told the audience what was going on, and that some bizarre things were happening. And on their way home, and I think afterwards, they started having weird things happen. And so this gentleman had made all these videos talking about all of this and shared the video clips of those certain things. And then all of a sudden, he just deleted those videos and quit talking about it entirely, which has everybody in the, thinking of all sorts of different conspiracies that could possibly be going on with it. And so all of that became very intriguing. The little door thing became extremely intriguing. So I went and wanted to go find it. So that's what we did. As soon as I heard what road it was on and everything, I gave my husband, I'm like, here, can you find this place? Because my husband is amazing at that kind of stuff. It's just amazing as it is. Yeah. So he, of course, was like, did his thing, and he said, yeah, I think I know where this is, or kind of have an idea, because Quartzville Road is a really long road. It's not just some short little road. It's like, I think, over 10 miles long. Anyhow, so we made a plan and we went out there. And as we were driving along, from the way the look of the video, I thought there was going to be like a guardrail up alongside the cliffside. So that's what I was looking for, and that specific cliffside. And so my husband and I knew, and we had our son with us, and we all, reviewed as much of the video that people were able to save and share, because the videos that the gentleman had taken, he had taken down. So we no longer have access to those. So as we were driving down Quartzville Road, and I'm apologize. I was really busy trying to get this story written for Danny, so I haven't edited all the videos I made, but I'm going to stitch those videos together and share them, and just kind of show the drive down Quartzville Road, and then show the area itself, because the area is definitely like what many would consider Bigfoot habitat. And also something really interesting that happened right around the same time that this door incident took place was that in Oregon, they have decided to shut down a bunch of their dams. and they're trying to reintroduce salmon into the streams. And so right at that time, they had shut down that dam that was right there. Um, and so when the dam waters, excuse me, made its way out, there were lots of dead fish and a bunch of animal activity in the area because of that. And in my videos, I kind of show like that waterway there right across. Like if you were to be standing where that door, that like giant door was, and looked out, you would see this view. And I did put up one video of that. So you kind of get an idea of, you know, if you were looking out that direction, what you would even see. So we definitely plan to go back and to go back and then do some investigating and check out the area and spend some time there. Hopefully, hopefully we'll be able to take the RV there and actually spend some time in the area because it looks really, really good. It looks really promising. And I haven't checked, but some of the people that were talking about this incident had claimed that there were a lot of Bigfoot sightings in that area. And so there's little like logging roads and stuff all over the place. So there's a lot of really cool places to go check out there. So we definitely plan on doing that. Let's see here. One channel gives the opportunity for people to write short stories about creepy experiences, and then she releases a video narrating it. Oh, fun. Oh, man. I wonder what that channel is. Yeah. It'd be interesting, like, maybe as time goes, because Derek is into, like, graphics and all of that, and I don't know, maybe we could come up with something like that and do some cool stuff like that. That would be fun. So what does Danny say here? Sadly, the guy committed suicide from what I'm being told. Some people are hollering conspiracy already. So there are two incidences where gentlemen claim to have seen giants. The one where the guy committed suicide, I believe he was in Canada, if I'm not mistaken. I could have that wrong, but a lot of people have done Google searches of the area, and there is clearly a tower there. So a lot of people were saying like he did that kind of like a hoax kind of thing for fun. So I don't know. I don't know about that whole situation, but that's separate from this one. This Quartzville Road, the Quartzville Road was another one where this guy was driving down Quartzville Road here in Oregon and saw what he said was a giant that scaled the side of this extremely steep cliff and went into a door. So there's two giant stories out there. And yeah, the one gentleman who saw this one is still posting, but he took down all of his videos, and they had well over millions of views. So if he was doing it for clout or clicks, he wouldn't have deleted them. So I don't know. It's just kind of weird. So there's two different giant stories. What is this? I'll text you the address in Oregon that the guy sent me. Okay, awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely go. I do not I do not have any hesitation to go check out areas, to try different techniques, things like that. Like we went out in Alaska in a reserve area behind the cabin, and we tried out Patrick Vaughn's method, his tree knock method, and we experienced some crazy stuff, and that was all live. Like, it was all live. Hey, Bruce Beaver, good to see you. Hey, Jen, good to see you. And so, um, and the guys went out and checked everywhere to see if they could find tracks, if there was anything out there, and there was nothing out there. So it just kind of feeds into the phenomenon that exists with these beings. Um, and so, like, if people have methods or things like that, I have no issue going out there and trying them. So, yeah, if you have any suggestions, places to go, things for me to look at, I will go take a peeky if necessary. So, yeah, lots of fun. Remember, it's Danny Staton's birthday. He's our birthday boy today. And if you didn't get a chance to hear the story, I did write a story for Danny, and that's what these first drafts are all about. They're all just first drafts. I don't do any editing on them. So, don't be too mean. Let's see here. That door looks like something straight out of the Lord of the Rings, where they go into the mountains of it does. It really does. And I've got a lot of video going around and getting different views of that door area. So there is something cool about it. Like, it does look like a door. It does. It looks like a door. It doesn't look like a pocket door that it could, slide inside anything, but it does look like it could potentially open. Like, there's nothing blocking it. And there also is, strangely, like a little trail that looks like it feeds right into that door. So it's really cool. Like, it's intriguing enough that my husband and my son want to go back and check it out. So usually they'll just be like, when we go somewhere, and they're like, whatever. You know what I mean? So there is that. Yes. Happy birthday, Danny. Let's see, Jen. I was shuffling my deck of cards when you said lots of Bigfoot sightings. And yes, card popped out. Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, wow. That stuff is so fascinating to me, especially with all the training I had way back when about tarot. I think there's something with the spiritual realm of things that a lot of people try and, distance themselves from, for fear of the unknown, I think, and for fear of looking silly. You know what I mean? I say you know what I mean a lot. Anyhow, but there, you can't deny it. And what I find really interesting is how many people who believe in the Bible try and deny supernatural things, where the Bible's filled with that kind of stuff. So, I don't know. I think we have a lot to learn as humans, and especially, like, I would love, 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 love to learn, like, remote viewing. That is something that has always intrigued me. We've got a few remote viewers in the community that are really talented at what they do. And I think there's something there. I mean, there's obviously something there, or the military wouldn't have spent the amount of time that they spent developing that skill. So, I don't know. I just think there's a lot to learn that if we try and push it away, we're not going to see the full picture. And we're just doing ourselves an injustice. You know what I mean? There we go again. So if we just stay open-minded enough that we can consider the possibilities, but not so open-minded that you can just ram a truck through your brain. I think we're going to get somewhere much further than where we're at right now. That's just my opinion. Let's see here. And nothing that exciting happens down here in South Florida. Oh my gosh, really? There's always stories about Florida man. You guys have Florida man. Just kidding. Just kidding, Marty. Oh, hey, Jess. How's it going? The Cryptid Huntress. Wishing you happy birthday, Danny. What an honor. There you go. That's awesome. Thanks for stopping by, Jess. Jessica. Sorry, some people don't like their names shortened. I'm Italian, so it comes naturally. Really, Jen? You made your own deck? Oh, I would love to see it. Love to see it. Yeah, that is really cool. Wow, look at that. I've heard about that, but I've never, yeah, I'm not there yet with my artwork. I would love to show you guys like the wave I'm working on. It has been taking me months. I've probably got 20 layers of acrylic paint on this canvas. I'm just redoing it and redoing it and redoing it. But I'm trying to get like the depth, like the perception in art I have a really difficult time with. And I think I'm finally there. I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. I'm not happy with the the sky colors I chose, but I'm happy with the wave finally. So we're getting there. But as far as making my own decks, my own tarot decks, I don't know. Like I don't have any within reach. But I've got a whole stack of tarot decks. If you're into tarot and you would like some new decks, and just get some exciting decks that, it's like your own present to yourself, there is a subscription box called Nine of Earth. I loved that subscription box. I ended up canceling it because I've got a huge box of just tarot cards now. And they've got, well, there's oracle cards, and then you've got your actual tarot cards. And so they send you a whole bunch of all different types. And so it's a really awesome subscription box if you are wanting to learn about tarot and wanting to increase your deck collection. So that's my little tidbit of, what do you call that? My brain just goes wonkers sometimes. But yeah, that was one I really enjoyed. Uncle Bones, welcome. Howdy, bud. Wishing Daily Dan a happy birthday. Oh, great idea. Lester, welcome. There you go. Jen. Jen. Look at that. Jen. You may be onto something here. If you made some Bigfoot tarot cards, oh, I bet you those things would sell like hotcakes. And then you could even partner up with someone like the Nine of Earth and put them in subscription boxes. I mean, there might be something there for you, Jen, if you're interested. I don't know. That would be, I would, huh? Oh, that's a good suggestion, Lester. I don't know. Something to think about. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, everyone's coming in. I hope that those of you that are late, yeah, Jen, he gets 50% of that idea if you do it. Maybe you guys can work together on that. But it is an awesome idea, right, Marty? I think so. I think so. I think so. Look at Bones. So yeah, there is there's a little project. Again, here I have a hard time with sometimes just trying to find the words I'm looking for. But there's a little project of love that I've started, and I've decided to call them First Draft. And it's where I've written a story, and it's all first draft, and I just use my little crystal Bic pens and just scribble away. There's no editing done on these stories. And I decided I did a story before, and it was about a gentleman named Walter, and that was like the first story that I shared that I had written as a first draft, and I had a lot of fun doing it. And what was really funny is I read the first story that I wrote, and that evening, the character that I had developed was nagging at me in my head and was like, "Don't leave me hanging like that." Like, it was not the impression I was really going for that for that man in that story. And so it was like, yeah, I can't just leave it there. That's just kind of a place where I really didn't feel comfortable leaving it. And so I came, and so again, I literally stayed up all night long, and the next day, like, that story would not let me even sleep. And so I just scribbled that thing out. And then even my husband, Captain Jake, was getting a little kick out of it. He was happy to see me back writing like that again. So um, when I wrote it and then I read it again, read that second part, it was like, this is something I really enjoy doing. And so I thought, huh. And then I saw Uncle Bones in the chat, and he's just such a wonderful, wonderful person. And I thought, oh, I think I'm going to write a story and make Uncle Bones the character, the main character. And I happened to watch Jess's show, the Cryptid Huntress, and then that just like the certain things just came like do 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 do, and that's how these ideas get formed. And it was like, oh well, let's make Uncle Bones a bounty hunter for cryptids, and boom, it went from there. And I thought, oh my gosh, as I was writing it, it was just such a wonderful, it just seemed to pair so perfectly with Uncle Bones. Like, it just, like, the story just, I love it. I hope you really love it too, Uncle Bones. And so as I was writing, I'm like, God, this could almost be a novel. I could keep going with this story. And so I decided to, like, cut myself off at one point and go, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to continue Uncle Bones stories as the main character. And so I will be having more of his bounty hunter expeditions out there. And, but yeah, it was a great, great spot to, like, take off from for a story like that. So that's how it all started. And then my, my phone came up with a reminder that Danny's birthday was coming up. And I was like, oh, because if someone tells their birthday, I will try, if I'm got it, I will try and put it, like, put a reminder in my phone. And I just try and do things like that. And so I put the reminder in there. And sure enough, it was like right after I finished Uncle Bones' story, it was like, oh, I got to do one for Dan. And so Daily Dan. And so that's what I scribbled out. And it came right at the time that we found that giant stone door in Oregon. So I haven't had time to edit my videos because I've been busy working on the story to get it out in time just for Uncle Bones's, or I mean, Danny's birthday. So happy birthday, bud. I hope you really enjoyed it. Yeah. So it's been it's been a project of love. And so I hope to continue it, and I hope to make more stories of the different subscribers and whoever that may be interested. And like I said, if people don't want a story about it, please let me know, because I would be mortified to write a story and someone just not be happy with it. Oh, that would just break my heart. So I do ask if someone doesn't, because I may surprise you and just pick you randomly. There's no rhyme or reason. Like, I chose Uncle Bones because he was definitely one of my very first subscribers. And we have been on this bedridden journey together from day one. And so we have had many days that we can't get out of bed. And so we can relate to one another. And we've just helped brighten those dark moments. And so that's why I chose him first. And then Danny Staton, he's he's fun. We all love Danny. And so he was another one. So Uncle Bones and Danny were two of my original subscribers. So that's how this started. And so I just plan on doing that with everyone, hopefully, and continue this on. Now, this I think is really good. Diki Miki, I hope I'm saying that correctly. If you look in the comments, there are a couple people in the comments that would love to talk to you about your experience, and they can help you in many ways. There's Jessica, the Cryptid Huntress, who is a talented remote viewer as well. And funny, I was just talking about wanting to learn remote viewing. But she is an excellent source. If you would really like to share your experience, get in touch with her. She's got a website and everything with an easy little way to contact her. So, go to her website, thecryptidhuntress.com, I believe, I hope, and share it in there if anybody can, and share her information. Also, let me just pull. Let me show you who I'm talking about. I'm scrolling, tubers and footers. I'm scrolling. Bear with me. Right here. Okay. The Cryptid Huntress here. She is definitely someone I would trust to share your experience with and be treated professionally. And she's got other skills that she could also assist you with if needed. The other one that I would suggest you get a hold of is Marty, the Nona Boss. These are two women that I trust and I look up to, and I think they are great resources to share those type of experiences with. And I think if you get a hold of both of those women, you will be in very capable hands to share this experience. But I'm going to go ahead and read it out loud if you don't mind. Hello again. I wanted to tell and others about my paranormal experience that happened to me a few years ago. It happened when me and two friends were going home and through the dark forest. And across the railway and through, let's say, creepy places. But I'm the whole way when we were okay, it's sometimes autocorrect and stuff gets these things crazied up, but the whole way there we were going to my house, I had a very strange feeling, not afraid. Headed, let me see, towards my house. We got to the first station and we saw a young dark-skinned girl standing at the station. What's creepy about that case is that the girl had completely black hair and a wedding dress. Well, we only realized later that she had a child in her hand. She had long legs and she was screaming and crying. We then started to run away from the first street we entered. I went back because I thought it was a hidden camera there, but there was absolutely nothing there. Literally, after 5 seconds, nothing was there. It's just, wow. It's just to mention that I had Purell, and I'm not sure I'm saying angina, and I can't breathe or speak. Oh, my heart goes out to you. Thank you for sharing that. Um, that that is wild. Now, one thing I can say is Jessica here. She is a remote viewer, so she could. I'm not sure, Jessica. I could be speaking out of my. I think if someone gave you a situation like that, would you be able to remote view that particular situation, or is it? I don't know how remote viewing really works. I don't know the details, but I don't know. But she's got a whole team of experts also that could potentially dig into that for you if you are truly curious about what that experience was. Oh, don't don't be sorry. This is you are more than welcome here, and we love hearing that kind of stuff. I love pointing people into the right direction where they can find the services and skill sets that they need. Um, hey Mike, how's it going? Good to see you. I just barely caught you live right when you logged off earlier. I was I was putting on my makeup, getting ready. Getting ready for this. But yeah, Diki Miki. I hope I'm saying that wrong. Right. I hope I'm saying that right. Um, but yeah, that is. I don't. That would be crazy, huh? You know, my sister. This is something that uh, was really weird as a little girl. We moved into this house, and my parents would flip houses a lot. My mom was a real estate broker, and so, and my dad was very talented in many things, but um, they loved flipping houses, and so we'd moved into this house, and where my sister and I's bedroom was like in the downstairs area, and like where the stairs came down, there was like this landing, and then just a few stairs that came down into our big open area room, which would normally have been probably like a living room or a den area, but we had made it into our bedroom. And one night my sister was like, woke me up, and she's like, do you see it, do you see it, do you see it? And she's pointing frantically up at the landing, and I'm looking at my sister, and I can see the pure terror in her. Like she was purely terrified, truly terrified. And this is my little sister. And so I'm looking, and I'm desperately trying to see whatever she is seeing, because she is clearly seeing something. And I'm ask her, like, what are you seeing? What are you seeing? And I'm trying to figure out what she's seeing, because I can't see anything. And she proceeds to tell me that there was a woman on the landing, and she had all these white flowing like robes, and she was standing on the landing pointing at my sister. And I, of course, was looking back, just straining my little eyes as best as I could to try and see whatever. My sister was clearly seeing this. I'm not kidding. Like she was clearly seeing whatever was there. She was seeing. I couldn't, but she could see it, and was terrified by it. And I was a devout little Catholic girl. I mean, oh my gosh, so devout. Like I wanted to be a nun, like super devout little Catholic girl. And I just tried telling my sister, it's Mary, it's Mother Mary coming to to see you and don't be scared. I tried reassuring my sister as best as I could. And, but still to this day, that moment traumatized her to the point she doesn't even remember me waking up. Like, she, in her mind, doesn't remember, like, she was never able to wake me up in her recollection of this. But my recollection, I completely remember her being completely freaked out and trying to talk her through that. But that was that was the best at that time that my little child brain could come up with, was what my sister could have possibly been seeing. Now there's a whole flurry of what she could have been seeing. I have no idea. But yeah, I believe you, Diki Miki. I believe you. I think that stuff happens. And there are people who are truly gifted in seeing, like, forest beings and spirits and ghosts, and are able to communicate beyond the veil. And I fully believe in that. So I wouldn't dismiss what you were saying at all. But if you are wanting some answers, I really would suggest getting a hold of those two women, or even just sharing your story. Like, they would be able to share your story, like you were saying. You have a hard, it's hard to breathe. I understand that. They would be able to take that story and either reread it themselves if it's something you would like to share, because I find it fascinating and intriguing, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people who would love to hear that story as well. So it might be worth your time to reach out to the other people in the community. And there are other investigators and things like that that go different places to investigate things like that. There could be a ley line there, all sorts of different energy fields, things like that. This could be very fascinating, path to something else. Like, you could have stumbled upon a little blip in, like, where the veils kind of, and a lot of people see that. Like, I had, in my Italian family in New York, we had a lot of cousins, grandparents who saw spirits and were able to speak to dead people. And I mean, it would freak people out, but I was always fascinated by that. And anytime they would say something, like, everybody else would just kind of pause them off, but I would be like just sitting there asking questions, like, where are they? What do you see? What are they doing? So yeah, I think there's a lot to this world we live in that is just easily disregarded, because people just want to stay in their bubble and not even think about the potential of that. Like, I've had moments of logic where I'm like, with all the people in our history of humanity that have passed away, we should have tons of ghosts everywhere. But I don't think, like, that, like, there's more to this puzzle, that we could all be putting these little pieces together. So stories like that are a little piece to the puzzle. And the more that these pieces we get, we're able to create this bigger picture and look at this, from a different perspective. So thank you for sharing that. Happened at the bus station. Yeah, that's also, I think, really interesting, is where these type of places happen to be, like where they put malls and things like that. Are there certain like energy centers, that they're taking advantage of knowingly, that is somewhere where like people will naturally migrate to these areas? I don't know. That happened with the change of the gypsy settlement. Huh. Interesting. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Diki Miki. I really appreciate that. There's, but definitely, like I said, um, between Nana Boss, Marty, and Jess, um, and Long Island Bigfoot, like there's a lot of people in the community that you and Cryptid Huntress here, that you are definitely in safe hands with. And the gentleman that we're talking about this evening, Danny Staton, he is another paranormal investigator and cryptid investigator. So the chat is filled with people who are intrigued and interested in that type of experience. So please feel free and comfortable to share whatever information you would like to. I would suggest not sharing personal information, obviously, because it is um, a public forum. But you could, somehow get in touch with them and figure something out, because I think there's more to that area probably. If you experience that, maybe there's others, and it'd be worth just looking into. Definitely. Hey, Pearls, how you doing, hun? Jen, I don't do cards, but sure, no, veil is thin lately, and the Sasquatch are traveling quite a bit lately. I think, excuse me. Yeah, I think you're right, Pearls. There seems to be a serious uptick in sightings and just the interest in the subject itself. And I really, a lot of people hate the Finding Bigfoot show, but I personally think that they've done a tremendous leap of getting the subject onto everybody's, at their dinner table for discussion, and it not being so disrespected of a topic. You know what I mean? I think that it opened up the conversation to far more people than it normally touches. I think there's a lot of people who watch those channels who just, turn the TV on and sit back and just kind of unwind. And they're not into the topic whatsoever, but they're watching the show because it's on and it's, interesting. And so, with that regard, I think that Finding Bigfoot has done a lot for the topic in a positive way. I mean, everybody's frustrated because it says Finding Bigfoot, and they never find them. But it's the journey that they take everyone on that is fascinating and gets a lot of people into the subject. So I try not to tear apart anybody that's doing their thing, and I really don't want to send any judgment on that show, because I think they've done a tremendous effort in making the topic more palatable. Um, so that's just my take on it all. But yeah, there's definitely, like, if you read the Bible and follow any of the tenets and things of the Bible, there are a lot of things where they talk about the veil thinning and things like that. So, um, yeah, I believe that there are people that have skill sets that are able to either breach that veil, that are able to connect with either the spiritual realms or these other realms or whatever is going on out there. Um, it's fascinating, and I think if we dismiss that aspect of everything going on, we're going to lose the whole picture. Um, you know, I think there's, but yeah, I think Jen, um, with you creating your own cards, and then of course Lester, I think that's a great suggestion to make some Bigfoot. I would get him. I would get him in a heartbeat. I'd be all up on those decks. Not everyone becomes ghosts. Some move on to other sides, some reincarnated, and some few become a ghost. See, there's so much. And again, thank you, Dan, for my book. He sent me this book last year, and it's helped educate me on a lot of the cryptid type topics and things. But there's so much to the spiritual realms and things like that that no one has all the answers. If they did, it wouldn't be a mystery, now would it? Drought has caused many animals to head for any water sources, no doubt about it. Yeah. Like I said, that the area where we found the stone giant door, they had just opened up all the dams that were right there. And so all the fish and everything that were in those dammed up areas were just everywhere on the beaches and everything as the water went out. So it created, like, they had it on the news and everything like that, right at the time that this person claimed to have seen a giant. So I find that kind of fascinating, you know. So there's things going on that may not seem to connect with one another, but possibly could, you know. Yeah, Pearls shared her encounter on Bigfoot Odyssey. I had the honor of um, interviewing her and hearing that encounter firsthand from Pearls, and I am telling you, it is a bit hair raising. I love finding Bigfoot, but I call it not finding Bigfoot. Yeah, yeah, that's what I say. They may need to change the name. Maybe looking for Bigfoot. Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, Lester, you and Jen need to get together and make that happen. Seriously. What people forget is there is always a story of a sighting for each investigation finding book fig, that Finding Bigfoot has. Absolutely. Like, they're not out there just going off of, oh, this place looks cool, let's go take a lookie. They always have someone that had some kind of experience. And it's usually an actual sighting, right? Like, they don't do shows on, like, someone like me that didn't really have a full fledged, like, whatever stood out on the trail. I can't say for 100% was a Sasquatch. I cannot say that. I don't know what it was. I couldn't see the features. Um, but I know it was massive and it wasn't a human. So it kind of, leaves things like that. But they don't, I think they investigate, like, clear sightings, right? I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But yeah, I mean, they take these people's encounters and walk people through their, what happened to them. And I find it interesting, and I think you get a little bit of the person's, backstory as well. Excuse me. I have 83 cards in this deck. Oh, wow. Ooh, wow. I have to work out ideas for a bit. That would be awesome, Jen. Seriously. You know, it would be really cool. And just, I don't know, this popped into my head, was making a card like a tribute to Joe, you know, like make one of your cards a tribute to Joe, and maybe Carrie, like some of the, I don't know, that could probably get a little out of hand. But yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. There's kind of a thing going on. Yeah, I think a lot of people have a love-hate relationship with the show, but I, I really enjoy the fact that they bring the topic to an audience that would never even consider listening to it. You know what I mean? Ah, there I go again. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Hey, Texas Jack, how's it going? Good to see you. I read a first draft of a story I wrote about Danny for his birthday. It's Danny Staton's birthday. So I wrote, I'm doing this new little pet project of love where I'm writing stories about different subscribers and just having fun with it. Um, so, yeah, you may show up in one. So keep your eyes open. Like I said, if it's not something you don't want to be a part of, let me know. Because, like I said, I've said it a bunch. I hate repeating myself. But if it's something that you don't want, let me know. Because that would be just terrible. Oh, I love you, Pearls. Thank you for trusting us. Yeah, I really miss um, being a part of the community on that level and everything that uh, Carrie was trying to do. That was just, but hopefully we'll be able to carry on in a good way, right? Right. Well, you have his number, so right there you go. Awesome. That would be splendid. That would be a great. Um, I have been on Bigfoot Odyssey. That was the first time I ever really shared my experience in a interview type format. I had been on Mogi on Monster. He was the first. Like I told him, I would go on his show first out of anybody's, and I promised that to him. And so when Carrie had asked me to be on Bigfoot Odyssey and actually set a date, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to go on Moses' show before this. Like I promised him I would not. And so I told Carrie, I have to make this happen first. Um, and so Mogi on Monster, he has a channel that's open to the chat, and he puts his link out there, and anybody could go on there and share their experience. And that the dynamics of how this all turned out is really hilarious. But as this was happening, there was another person that came on, and he started talking flat Earth, and I just and now we have like a fun back and forth, and I can appreciate him for who he is, and so he was on just going bonkers, and I was like, Mogs, put up the link, I'm coming on. So I went on his channel first, and I've shared a little bit here and there on Mogs's channel, but there was never like a real full interview and full discussion on it. So Carrie and Mark from Sawdust Beast, he was the Oh, my mind just went blank. Anyhow, he was there as well. So they interviewed me the first time. Um, I had been interviewed by Joe from Northwest. I always screw his stuff up. And then I'd been interviewed by Rob and Tex and Jason. That was fun. And oh, I hope I'm not forgetting any of the other interviews I've done. If I have done, ah, I'm, I'm. Oh, I don't know. Tubers and footers. Am I forgetting anyone? I feel horrible if I have. But yeah, so I I've talked with like Eric from Paranormal Highway. We're supposed to have a discussion and do a little interview with one another, and then Duke from World Bigfoot Radio. We're gonna try and do an interview together. But I try and avoid going on channels and sharing my story too much. A lot of the reason is because I have neurological issues, so just even trying to talk can be a little difficult. So I get really nervous, and so I'm getting better and feel a little bit more comfortable, obviously. But yeah, so it's kind of limited on who I've actually had interviews with. I hope that answered your question. Did that answer your question? Yeah, if anybody is interested in hearing Pearl's encounter, which is very intense, um, there it is right there on Bigfoot Odyssey. And she went by 7 Pearls during that time. Yeah, and I was co-hosting with Daniela. Okay, I'm gonna be heading out of here soon, but I really, really enjoyed this, and I hope you guys too. It's wandering around the woods like a fool. And oh, speaking of, there's Duke. Sorry, Duke, I'm live right now. I would love to answer that, but you probably wouldn't appreciate that right now. There you go. So there's one of my interviews waiting to happen potentially. I'll have to give him a call back. I hate doing that. Um, but yeah, so we'll have that coming up here soon, apparently. Yeah. Yeah. I think when you are dealing with an intelligent being, uh, and if the potential, like, let's just say um, they were able to access different capabilities, whether it be infrasound or, things like that. We just don't know. Like, we really don't know. And what's really cool is like they've really recently found out like that reindeer are able to see different spectrums of light that they hadn't had any idea. So we're constantly learning, even about the creatures we know about. You know what I mean? So who knows? Who even knows what these beings are capable of? I I'm just fascinated by the subject entirely and the experiences I've had. I just wish that I had more knowledge or just clued in when I was experiencing that stuff, because I think like I had known about Bigfoot and all of the cryptid type stuff, but when you grow up, you kind of just put that stuff to the side, you know, and just kind of move forward. And I think that's kind of what I did is I just kind of just put it back there and didn't really consider it for whatever reason. I find that really fascinating. I find it so fascinating. But yeah, that's definitely a part of my experience that I think there's other people's other people that have had that same type. So good night, Marty. Thank you. Thank you all for stopping by. I am going to go ahead and start shutting this down. We're getting to 2 hours and my back is screaming at me. Yes, Jen, I do have Messenger. I will be upfront. I am terrible with Messenger. Bradley Hatcher will tell you that. I am horrible. Danielle, anybody who's ever, my sister, my best friends, like, I'm terrible with Messenger. But yes, I do have it. But Iron Dog is coming up. So I'm on Facebook a lot more. So I'll be downloading the app again and starting it all up here soon. So yes, I'll be on Messenger. I'm looking forward to seeing what you're going to create. All right, tubers and footers, thank you all so much for being here and celebrating Daily Dan, Danny Staton's birthday. He's our birthday boy. So just remember to give him some loves and tell him happy birthday. And let him know we're all happy he's part of the community. So I hope to bring some more of these stories. I'm not sure who the next subject will be. Maybe I'll bring Uncle Bones and Danny together in a story. You never know what I may have going on in my crazy little brain. So you're welcome, Danny. Happy birthday. I hope you really enjoyed it. And so, again, they are all first drafts. There's no editing. I just had to get a different notebook because I filled up the other one. But I just write them out and then read them. First draft, no editing. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. I need to get better at actually reading the story back. So it'll all get better. It'll all get better. So thank you. All right, tubers and footers. I really appreciate every single one of you. I really do. This has been quite a journey, and I look forward to wherever this takes us. So I have next coming up an Iron Dog update, and hopefully it won't be as embarrassing as the last one. And I'll have my stuff together and be able to actually open it up and look in the Facebook and at their website and share all that stuff and actually do a real update. So let you know who the racers are and then get all that stuff lined up. So I've got a lot of stuff that I want to do. So again, I really appreciate having all of you along this journey. So thank you. Have an awesome night. And we'll just see. Next thing coming up is an Iron Dog update. And then after that, we're going to the Stone Giant Door area. So there's no cell service out there. So I can't do a live from that area unless I get some other equipment, which we've considered doing. Nemo's trying to get in here. So unless we get some equipment before we go out there, I won't be able to go live. But we are definitely going back this week. All right, tubers and footers, you all take care, and we'll see you soon on the next one. Thank you. Take care, tubers and footers. Good night. Night.